here we are outside of Union Station, as you can see behind me. Yesterday we were out here ready for the feds, Donald Trump's secret police, the park police. I don't know who exactly was involved in removing a method of harassment and intimidation, a group of veterans out here to protest Donald Trump and fascism. I am joined today by the illustrious crew. Introduce yourself, everybody.
I'm Jolly.
Matt.
And I'm Lainey.
And this is a group of patriots that are at the tip of the spear in protesting Donald Trump, having their names on permits. And let's start there. Your permit was not canceled, yet they came in the dark of night and conducted a raid, no?
And to put context on it, about a month and a half or so ago, the other group that's with us, Flair, who's also permitted to be here, was raided at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning by park police, had their permit revoked for no reason. And then the very next day after this, and all their stuff was stolen, the very next day...
Didn't they also shred their tents? Cut their tents up?
That day they didn't.
Okay.
This time they did. That time they didn't. So I think it was October 3rd or 4th when it happened. But the next day, Ted Cruz made a statement saying that he wants the tents gone from Columbus Circle. He said he's going to make Columbus Circle great again. And then since then, we've had this, push back and forth with National Park Services, trying to amend our permit for one way or another and can't get a response. And then we all saw it coming for some time. And then 36 hours before this happened, we received a written notice that we had to be gone by Wednesday. And number one, their own regulation says that would require a 48-hour notice, to be fair. And then number two, their rationale for kicking us out didn't make sense. We're going to start construction in the middle of December, right. 2 weeks before Christmas. It's about to snow. You're making it up. They're doing this to appease Ted Cruz and to appease MAGA because the goal here is the same goal they've had the last 11 months, and that's to silence First Amendment speech.
Yeah. And you'll notice they didn't just tear out the tents. They put an entire fence covering so no one can even go in there. We have a peanut gallery out here. So,
yeah. We're not doing anything.
So what is... what's the plan? I mean, I know you guys aren't going to stop the protest. You're going to continue to resist with all of that you have within you.
Yeah. So moving forward, we're off leash. We're looking at ways to move into operations that are going to disrupt, community terrorism.
Which is happening right now all across the country,
yeah.
But certainly here in Washington, D.C.
And, we were springboarded by National Park Service ahead of our schedule to just start moving forward with that. So the protest doesn't end. We're not stopping. It might look a little different, but we're still going to be out here.
And I think it's important that everyone understands we're talking to the ACLU. We've contacted another attorney. We're looking to do a First Amendment lawsuit and a Fourth Amendment lawsuit. Within their own regulations, they did not properly stop our permit, thereby interrupting our First Amendment right. And we have the same constitutional rights as everybody to not have our property illegally seized. So the consequences for a revoked permit is not the loss of your property. It requires a signature of a judge to have your Fourth Amendment right basically infringed. They've taken our equipment. You referenced earlier them shredding it. They cut stuff on it. They tore our stuff up.
Right.
Not only did they take it, they also just, treated it like it was trash. And so we will be filing a Fourth Amendment lawsuit as well.
Yeah, nice. What you want to add some perspective here as far as what I have my mic. What should people at home know about just how, there's some big old mittens, know exactly of why it's so important to resist in this moment?
Well, we came out here ourselves as veterans because we knew that people, tend to listen to veterans' voices. And so we wanted to come out to inspire people to, get active in their own communities, to not only build community, but defend their communities.
Yeah.
And so we hope to continue to move forward with that exact same mission. It's just going to be, phase 2.
It seems self-evident to this group, all of us having served, that it is a fool's errand to try to intimidate people who are trained in insurgency and counterinsurgency. I mean, it is just, it's idiocy on the part of all of these people. So many of them did not serve, including the chief who has multiple draft deferments, who dodged the draft when his number was called and he had his moment to serve. And it wasn't just about molesting the flag on stage at fucking CPAC. So there's a lot of people out there who are comfortable in their homes, in their warm and cozy homes this holiday season. And you've got a bunch of patriots out there who are actually putting their safety on the line, their comfort on the line this holiday season for your rights, while their rights are being impinged upon by this administration.
I'm glad you said this part because I want to highlight that there's no construction happening over here.
Absolutely not.
This was a very last minute, complete bullshit. But I want to really highlight, in this park, you find a lot of unhoused people.
Yeah.
A lot of people from D.C. you find a lot of unhoused people go to city centers because there's more resources and supplies. And they found a home here in Columbus Circle. Well, now they kicked them out to put up their fence where nothing is happening. And all the money they're about to spend, from what I hear, to make this fountain spray water again, all of that money could have been spent to help those same unhoused people have resources, to help the people in D.C. have resources. The $1 million a day they spent for the Guard in this illegal deployment could have been used in the city of D.C. It could have been used to help the unhoused. It could have been used, if you believe there's a crime problem, to address those issues at the root of those issues. Park Police actually, a lot of people maybe didn't see this news come out. Park Police was told to stop hiring people because Park Police has actually now hired more people than any other police department in D.C. And they made the claim they want to become the superb police authority in D.C. You're the fucking Park Police, guys. Right. Let's relax. Yeah. Well, so that's how this money could be better spent.
I think that it goes unsaid that there is no concern for the things they cape about and act like they're concerned about. They say, well, we don't want to take care of homeless people because what about homeless vets? Well, then let's fund that. Well, no, that's socialism. They don't care about that. All they care about is harassment and intimidation, and they've gotten their way for now. This is one battle that we did not come out on top of, but it is not the end of the war or the fight in general.
When you rage against the machine will rage back.
That's right. We're going to leave it there. I want to say, I very much appreciate you guys. It is just fucking fantastic and patriotic. This is what patriotism looks like. An actual adherence and love and following the oath that we all took when we raised our right hands and swore an oath to the Constitution to swear to protect and defend and support that document against all enemies, foreign and, in this case, domestic enemies to the Constitution.
And keep up with what we're doing.
Yeah, you can keep up with what we're doing, where we're at, and how you can help us at rememberyouroath.org.
Rememberyouroath.org, and follow everybody. All of their socials will be in the description of this video. If you have questions, hit me up. I'm in DC, they're in DC, and I'm sure we can connect again. As always, be genuine and take care of one another.
We have to be unified. China is unified because they have one vote. That's President Xi. He says do it, and that's the end of that. You know, we have a different system.
Welcome to the Dollemore Daily. For those of you who are new here, I am Jesse Dollemore. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Let's talk about Donald Trump, obviously. You've seen the thumb, you've seen the title, you understand some of the gist of what I'm going to talk about. Donald Trump is on an authoritarian power grab spree. He believes himself to be a king, and not just of the United States. He has postured annexing Canada and making it the 51st state. He's currently, I did a video about this yesterday, kind of a bulleted list, a quick 2-minute and 50-second video or something about how many things Donald Trump is naming after himself. They are endeavoring to alter the Constitution so he can run for a third term in violation of the current Constitution, the current setup with the 22nd Amendment. And Donald Trump last night gave a speech in his little tux, or his big tux, and he intimated that things are going so well in America that the leaders of Europe want him to be their supreme leader. their king. He believes himself to be the leader of the entire world. This is problematic for a number of different reasons. Chief of them is that he believes himself to be better than the rest of us. He believes it is his divine ordained right to have the rest of the planet be subject to him. And this is also includes a just absolute lie-riddled estimate of the economy and the deficit by many, many orders of magnitude. He lies relative to what the actual number is about our deficit and what the impacts of tariffs, which are the thing that European leaders hate about what we're doing right now. One of many things. Watch Donald Trump declare himself to be the new European king at the request of actual Europeans.
Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. They're all saying it. Other leaders are saying it. The European nations are saying it. The European nations are reporting that your president might as well be the leader of the European nations also. They listen to us and they respect us like they've never respected us before. So we're going to work very hard. We get along with them. We want to get along with as many nations as we can. We've been ripped off by a lot of them for a lot of years. And frankly, a lot of the Democrats knew that better than some of the Republicans. But we've been ripped off and taken advantage of by friend and foe. And in many cases, friend was worse than foe, but not anymore. We have, I don't know if you noticed, the deficit was cut down by 64%. Nobody's ever heard of a number like that. You know why? A thing called tariffs. The tariffs are so big and so substantial. And it was just announced 2 weeks ago, the deficit's cut down by, nobody ever heard of a number like that. If the deficit goes down by 2%, it's like a great thing. The tariffs have reduced the deficit by 64%. Nobody has ever seen. And frankly,
the European nations are reporting that your president might as well be the leader of European nations also. There's really only two explanations for this line of thinking, this train of thought, and that is it's either delusional, that he is a demented, wherever the stage of his dementia is, it's either that, or he's a liar who obviously understands what's taking place. I don't see any other explanation that can be formed here. He's either lying, bullying, or he believes it to be true. There's no telling with Donald Trump because lies are his native tongue. It is his natural language. It's water rolling downhill. It's the path of least resistance. It's whatever's true, he's going to buck against. The whole thing about the deficit being down is just abjectly false. I'm going to read this from the United States Congress Joint Economic Committee. U.S. deficit decreases 2.8% to $1.8 trillion in fiscal year 2025. In fiscal year 2025, the nation ended with a $1.78 trillion deficit. That's $1,780 billion for the deficit in 1 year. 50 billion, 2.8% less than fiscal year 2024, leading to a decreased deficit impact was the record-setting tariff collections of $195 billion for fiscal year 2025. So it's not 64%, it's 2.8%. Liar. Sickening, wicked liar. And look, if this was a moment in isolation, if we could look at this in a vacuum and say, oh, this is just an isolated thing, he's just making a little cut and a joke. It's just Donald Trump being a jokester. That would be one thing. Well, that's not the case, though. Donald Trump constantly treats himself as some kind of a dignified, benevolent dictator type, a king, a sovereign. He has cabinet meetings where they go around the horn and each one of them caresses and fondles Donald Trump rhetorically about what a great and powerful man he is. It is, the real question is what's going on under the table at those cabinet meetings. Well, yesterday he had another lust for Xi Jinping, lust for the power that the communist leader of China has, in saying that we need to be unified, just like they are in China, because when Xi Jinping says something, everyone does what he says. We need a system like that, according to Donald Trump. Watch this from inside the Oval Office of the White House.
Again, I believe there'll only be one country that really benefits, and it should be the United States, and it will be if we do this, if we're unified. We have to be unified. China is unified because they have one vote. That's President Xi. He says do it, and that's the end of that. You know, we have a different system, but we have a system that's good, but we only have a system that's good if it's smart. David Sachs, can you say a few words, please?
Yes, sir.
We have a different system. Ostensibly by the context clues of language. Look, we have the commonality of language. We also understand tonality, and we understand someone's facial expressions while they're talking. This is disdain for the system we have. This is contempt for the system we have, a democratic system of checks and balances in this country that Republicans for decades have acted like is so genius, the founding fathers, with all their fake patriotism. Yet, no one's going to say anything about Donald Trump praising Xi Jinping, praising the communist system, praising the authoritarian system in China, and denigrating what we've got here. Donald Trump wishes, he desires nothing more than to be able to say how it is. He says, do it, and that's the end of it. Well, we have a different system. Crickets from the peanut gallery of Republicans. Nothing. They have nothing to say because they have bent the knee to Donald Trump. They worship at the throne of Donald Trump. He is their supreme dear leader as he pines for the powers of a Kim Jong-un, as he wants to put his own face on our currency, just like in North Korea, just like in the former Libya when it was ruled by Gaddafi, just like Bashar al-Assad in Syria. That Donald Trump wants that. He desires nothing more than that. Or at the very least, if he can't get it officially, he's going to signal like he has it and constantly talk about it. Anyway, I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it.
How many United States military veterans have you deported?
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
We are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Se-Jun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea.
Yesterday was a brutal hearing for the Secretary of Homeland Security, Ice Barbie Kristi Noem. So brutal, in fact, she left in the middle of it. She just got up and said, "Oh, I've got a thing I've got to do, and a meeting, and a conference, and a blah blah blah," that was actually canceled. She lied and got up and, like with cartoon feet, she yoinked out of there. And the reason is because she was owned. Questioning segment after questioning segment after questioning segment, just brutalized by questions seeking factual answers. And when you work for Donald Trump and you are at the tip of the spear of a terror operation on the streets of the United States, kidnapping our community members, abusing American citizens, incarcerating American citizens, using immigrations and customs enforcement to do so, ICE, Donald Trump's masked secret police force, it's not going to go well for you. And especially when you are deporting former members of the United States military, veterans of the United States military. Look, when I served in the United States Marine Corps, I served with several people who were born in other countries, who were not even citizens of the United States. It's pretty common. In fact, it must be, I'm just as anecdotal, but it must be very common because when I served in the 90s, I had several colleagues, fellow Marines who were born in other countries and were not citizens. They had green cards. You would think that Republicans would have enough respect for someone who would serve and put their life on the line, especially this particular veteran that we're talking about, who actually took fire, was injured in combat for the sake of the United States and her people, You would think Republicans would have enough respect for that to not deport out of the country these individuals. And this congressman, Magaziner, it is amazing the talent, the depth on the bench of talent that the Democrats have, because this guy, don't know who he is, and we need more of this energy. We need more of this preparation when you're faced with the fascist or fascist enabler, at the very least, Kristi Noem, trapping her about the respect for veterans, and then the line of questioning about why. Here's what you're getting ready to watch. I'll shut the hell up. He's asking about veterans, and she's like, yeah. Okay, well, joining us right now via iPad is the veteran that you said you didn't deport. Here he is deported and speaking from the country to which he was deported.
Madam Secretary, how many United States military veterans have you deported?
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
I don't believe you served in the military. I haven't either, but I think you and I can agree that as Americans, we owe everything to those who have served our country in uniform, particularly those who have served in combat. Do you agree with that?
Sir, I believe that people that are in this United States that are citizens have legal status here.
Madam Secretary, we are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Se-Jun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran who was shot twice while serving our country in Panama in 1989. Like many veterans, he struggled with PTSD and substance abuse after his service. He was arrested in the 1990s for some minor drug offenses, nothing serious. He never hurt anyone besides himself, and he's been clean and sober for 14 years. He is a combat veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. He has sacrificed more for this country than most people ever have. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea, a country he hasn't lived in since he was 7 years old. Will you join me in thanking Mr. Park for his service to our country?
Sir, I'm grateful for every single person that has served our country and follows our laws.
Can you please tell Mr. Park why you deported him?
Every one of them needs to be enforced.
But you understand that many veterans struggle with PTSD, many veterans struggle with substance abuse challenges. This man took 2 bullets for our country. You have broad authority, by the way, as Secretary, to issue humanitarian parole, to do deferred action. Will you commit to at least looking at Mr. Park's case to see if you can help him find a pathway back to this country that he sacrificed so much for?
I will absolutely look at his case, but I want you
Thank
to
you.
remember that
Madam Secretary, the man
programs need to have
behind you,
integrity as
please
well.
stand up, sir. His name is Jim Brown from Troy, Missouri. He is a Navy combat veteran who served our country in the Gulf War. He's married to a woman named Donna, who came to our country legally from Ireland when she was 11 years old. She has lived here for 48 years. Because of you, Jim's wife, Donna, has been in prison for the last 4 months. She did not come here illegally, and she has never committed any crime other than writing 2 bad checks totaling $80 10 years ago. She is currently in prison and facing deportation. Ms. Noem, will you thank Mr. Brown for his service to our country?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your service to our country.
Now, what possible explanation can there be for locking up his wife for 4 months when she has committed no crime other than writing a couple of bad checks for $80?
Sir, it is not my prerogative, my latitude, or my job to pick and choose which laws in this country get enforced.
You have broad
and which
discretion
ones
as the Secretary.
We need to follow
you can issue
the law
parole, you
and
can do all
enforce
kinds of
the
things,
laws.
but you're choosing not to.
How many veterans have you deported? We haven't deported any veterans. Joining us via Zoom is the veteran that you just lied and said you didn't deport. And then the guy with the Irish wife who wrote 2 checks that bounced totaling $80 10 years ago. And apparently now is the time to incarcerate that person for month upon month upon month before deportation. This is authoritarian goonery is what this is. This is a sickening attempt to create a white ethno-state, to kick out the undesirables, those that are deemed undesirable by Donald Trump. Even if it means violating the trust of the group that you claim time and time again to be loyalty to cherish, to venerate, to hold in high esteem. And they don't. They're liars. Anyway, I would love to know what you think about these topics here. If you're a veteran, validate what I'm saying here or refute it. If you served on active duty in I was going to say the Marine Corps, but in any service, if you served on active duty, tell me what your experience was relative to serving with people who had green cards, who were just permanent residents of the United States, who felt enough duty and loyalty to the country to serve on active duty and in many cases combat over the course of the last few decades that we've been embroiled in military conflict across the globe. In the world and age of Donald Trump, you often hear the term bombshell thrown around a lot. This is a bombshell. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have released photos, and there are many, many, many more to come that directly implicate Donald Trump in hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein with models, their faces are redacted, and a bowl of Trump condoms on which is printed, "I'm huge." It is no longer a situation where Donald Trump can deny his involvement and decade-and-a-half-long friendship, best friendship, according to Jeffrey Epstein, with Jeffrey Epstein. It just can't be done anymore. And Republicans are going to have a hard time here as he's losing a grip on reality itself of following this man to their certain demise. This is from CNN. I'm going to show you the photos after I read a couple paragraphs here. And then we're going to get to some members of Congress, both Democrat and Republican, who are speaking about this. And I'm also going to play something from the victim's attorney that he has no confidence in this administration to tell the truth about this. This is the headline from CNN, this breaking bombshell news. New photos released from Epstein's estate showing Trump, Bannon, Bill Clinton, and other high-profile people. I've said multiple times, I don't care who's involved in this. You're going to see photos, framed photos of Bill Gates on the walls of the home of Jeffrey Epstein. Bill Clinton, thick as thieves with these people. Larry Summers also gallivanting. It's disgusting that men of high power and influence and position and considered important in our society would have anything to do, much less a deep friendship with a convicted rapist of girls. Democrats on the House Oversight Committee have released photos from Jeffrey Epstein's estate Friday showing that many powerful figures in the late sex trafficker's orbit, including President Donald Trump, former President Bill Clinton, Steve Bannon, Bill Gates, Richard Branson, and others. Many of the men have been previously linked to Epstein, though the photos may shed new light on the extent of those relationships. Taken collectively, the 19 images, which the Democrats on the committee said came from the Epstein estate, reinforced the financier was tied in the past to a wide variety of powerful and high-profile people whose ties to him are now under significant scrutiny. Every single one of these people, if found to have committed crimes, needs to be burned to the ground. Bill Clinton or not, Bill Gates or not, who cares? If you harm children, if you victimize innocent children, you need to go. One released image shows Trump with 6 women with leis, like the Hawaiian flowers with leis, whose faces were redacted by committee members, while another depicts what appears to be a bowl of novelty condoms with a caricature of Trump's face with the text, "I'm huge." Other released images depict Steve Bannon and Epstein taking a photograph in a mirror, Bill Clinton with Epstein, Maxwell and another couple, and tech billionaire Bill Gates with the former Prince Andrew. Former Harvard president Larry Summers and lawyer Alan Dershowitz also appear in pictures from the estate. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little screen recording here, and I will show you these photos that have been released. Here's one of 16, Jeffrey Epstein with Steve Bannon on the desk. A framed photograph of a woman lying down is visible. Part of that photograph has been redacted by the House Democrats on the Oversight Committee. This is bizarre. This is Steve Bannon, thick as thieves with a rapist of children, a convicted pedophile and sexual abuser and trafficker. Tell me again that these people are patriots who have the best interest of America at heart. Here's, oh, shocker, Woody Allen and Jeffrey Epstein on the set of one of his movies, ostensibly. Here are those condoms, the Trump condoms. We already know this is a lie. Huge. No. Trump condom, $4.50. I'm huge. What's going on? What strange that Donald Trump, who has nothing to do with this creep, has his face emblazoned on condoms at parties where sex trafficking and rape occurred. Here's Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard, with Jeffrey Epstein, or looks like Woody Allen there on the Jeffrey Epstein jet. Here's Jeffrey Epstein taking a little selfie action with Steve Bannon. Richard Branson of Virgin Empire, Virgin Airline, Virgin Hotels, Virgin Records, hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. All of these people need to go. Here's Donald Trump. Trump poses with a group of women. The women's faces were redacted by Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. Look at his little hand here, working its way down. Donald Trump, nothing to do with the creep. Nothing to do. Here's Woody Allen again with an unidentified woman and Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know all the years of these photos. I'm certain this will be coming out. Here's Jeffrey Epstein with Donald Trump. Here's the photo of what appears to be Bill Gates in an airplane or something that just happens to be framed on the wall of Jeffrey Epstein's house. That seems like a problem, Bill. Does it not, Mr. Philanthropist? Mr. Good for the human cause? Bill Gates? Oh, another with Bill Gates and disgraced rapist of girls, former Prince Andrew, brother of King Charles, pedophile, child rapist. Bill Gates, glad-handed with the pilot. Jeffrey Epstein and Alan Dershowitz, Mr. I got a massage in my underwear. Another one of Woody Allen and Steve Bannon, who apparently really loves to hang out with people who are abusers. And then Donald Trump with an unidentified woman. And then we're going to wrap it up with this one of Bill Clinton, his big rosy cheeks, big rosy face with an autographed photo of himself. Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Every single one of these people needs to burn to the ground, needs to be jettisoned from polite society, put away so they can do no harm to children anymore. I'm gonna share this little clip with you. This is Robert Garcia, House Democrat, talking about the trove of photos. This is just a smattering, just a scintilla of what they have. There are more to come to the tune of tens of thousands of documents. Watch this.
Obviously, just last night, we received about 95,000 photographs from the Epstein estate. I want to be clear. Our committee, Oversight Democrats, have gone through maybe about 25,000 of them so far. So there's an enormous amount of photos that we have not gone through. It will take days and weeks to ensure that we go through those photos and that a redaction is done in the appropriate way. Let me just also say that clearly we have put out, I think maybe 15 to 20 of those photos this morning, Democrats have. We will continue to put out more photos in the days and weeks ahead. But I just caution folks that the redaction process and ensuring that we are protecting the survivors and the women who were abused by Epstein are protected.
What else do you...
95,000 photographs. There's going to be more. Donald Trump must be sweating bullets. Even Donald Trump, who acts like, oh, he's untouchable. He can't be harmed by anything. He is panicking about this because this is his worst nightmare. Now we're learning exactly why he refused to release these files. Now we know exactly what's going on here. And Epstein's victim's lawyer Oh, actually, let's save that one for last. Here's Thomas Massey, Republican, who has been instrumental in getting the discharge petition passed and the vote to come to the House floor to force the DOJ to release these files. Here he is on the question of what if they decide not to release them.
If DOJ doesn't release the files it has by next Friday, is there anything Congress can do to compel that to happen?
Well, I mean, it's a crime if they don't. It's not like they're in contempt of Congress because they didn't respond to a subpoena. This is a new law with, criminal implications if they don't follow it. But I was encouraged, again, by the fact that they went back to these 3 judges and got the judges to release the grand jury material to the DOJ.
Thank you,
Is that grand jury material enough, do you think,
No.
to comply with the law?
No, the grand jury material is just a small fraction of what the DOJ needs to release, because the FBI and DOJ probably has evidence that they chose not to take to the grand jury, because the evidence they're in possession of would implicate other people, not Epstein or Maxwell. So the grand jury material is probably going to just be mostly facts and evidence that was used to convict those 2. And what we want to see are the facts and evidence that the FBI and the DOJ have never given to a grand jury.
It's a crime if they don't release them, simply stated. And then let's end with this. This is one of the lawyers for the many, many dozens, if not hundreds, of Epstein victims. And he is stating clearly what the rest of us already know, that Donald Trump and this administration is unreliable. They cannot be counted on to tell the truth.
It's mixed. There is some very cautious optimism that something will be released on the 19th. But the problem is that this administration has given the survivors and, frankly, the American public no assurance that they are trustworthy when it comes to the Jeffrey Epstein files. As we sit here right now, Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted child sex trafficker, is in a minimum security resort style prison playing with puppies and having special meals. There's just no trust from the public. There is certainly no trust from the survivors that on December 19th, the administration is going to be fully transparent, because they've been everything but fully transparent for months and months and months.
And let me end with this. The press had better do their jobs. They had better hunt this story down, track these people down, ask the appropriate questions. Do not glad hand with these individuals in power with your access journalism. For the sake of the victims, do the right thing. Luxuriate under the protection of the First Amendment of the Constitution, which specifically outlines the protection of the free and fair press. Do your job. This is huge. What do you think? Speaking of huge, what do you think? I invite you, I want to hear from you on this.
Who approved the asylum application for this same person?
Mr. Thompson, this individual that came into the country.
No, I want to know who approved.
Congressman Thompson, I want you to understand when this individual came into the country, he came under
the brutalizing, the justifiable brutalizing of Kristi Noem, the ICE Barbie, the photo op expert, the dressing up cosplay as though she's going to go out on an urban assault raid. Kristi Noem, starring in commercials while she's riding across the beautiful countryside of the United States on horseback, and then narrating a video about the white ethno-state that she wants to create. Yesterday, she was grilled by Bennie Thompson, the former chairman of this very committee. He's now the ranking member since the Democrats are out of the majority, asking about the tragic shooting, the killing, the murder of Sarah Beckstrom, the 20-year-old West Virginia National Guard service member who was killed on the streets of Washington, D.C. just a few weeks ago. And Bennie Johnson is getting to the point of who granted the shooter, the alleged shooter, who granted this person asylum. We know, it's been reported, it's not even been refuted, that he was allowed entry into the country by Joe Biden in 2021, September of 2021, after having served with the United States military, after having been in a unit of trained by and funded by the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, It seems that there would have been some vetting involved with getting him to work so closely with troops, to be in such a position of confidence that they trusted him to be on the ground and operationally active with our United States military and the IC, the intelligence community. So Donald Trump granted him asylum, and it's the one thing they just will not say. We know it to be true. The facts are laid out. We have the documentation, and they are just working against work, hoping against hope, straining against strain, like Donald Trump on the toilet every morning, to not admit what is going on here. And Bennie Johnson got right to the heart of it. Now, what you're going to be hearing in the media over the course of the next few hours and days is the fact that Bennie Johnson said it was an unfortunate incident, or however he phrased it, which was, an unfortunate way to phrase it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that her murder, her killing, was an unfortunate incident. They're gonna try to make this about something else. But watch this moment where he invariably threatens her with perjury charges for her lies. It's quite something to behold. Watch this moment from the hearing yesterday where Kristi Noem again was repeatedly hammered.
Madam Secretary, you and the gentleman from NCTC reference the unfortunate accident that occurred with the National Guardsman being killed.
You think that was an unfortunate accident?
I mean,
it was a terrorist attack.
Wait. Look, I'll get it straight. Then you can
He shot our National Guardsman in the head.
Look, Mr. Chairman, will you direct the witness to allow me to ask my question? It was an unfortunate situation, but you blamed it solely on Joe Biden. I want you to know who approved the asylum application for this same person.
Mr. Thompson, this individual that came into the country.
No, I want to know who approved.
Congressman Thompson, I want you to understand. When this individual came into the country, he came under evacuation of Afghanistan under Operation Allies Welcome, was thoroughly vetted by the Biden administration at that point in time, allowed into our country, and then was never followed up. I want to remind everybody in Congress.
Reclaim my time.
We follow the law. And every asylum is supposed to have a check-in every single year, and the Biden administration failed to do that. They vetted this individual, allowed them into our country, and did not do due diligence.
Witness will allow the gentleman to ask his question.
Yes or no? Who approved the asylum claim?
The application on the asylum was thoroughly filled out by information that was gathered by the Biden administration.
So the Biden administration approved the asylum.
The asylum application was put into place under the rules established by the Biden administration.
Reclaiming my time. I don't want to file perjury charges against you, but I'm of the opinion that the Trump administration, DHS, your DHS, approved the asylum application.
The asylum application moved forward under all of the information and vetting processes that were put in place under the Biden administration, which is when vetting happened. And that's what President Trump has changed. Under President Trump's administration.
Reclaim my time again.
When
it's obvious you don't want to answer the question. Mr. Kent, do you want a shot at it?
There are certain ways that are better than others to deal with these people who want to filibuster, who want to talk over the questioner. Their role there is a constitutionally mandated one. Congress has oversight over the executive branch of government. It is one of the brilliant, genius checks and balances that are baked into the Constitution and our government by design by our framers. And she is there not as a courtesy to Congress, she's required to be there. And instead of just answering questions, she obfuscates, she distracts, she tries to filibuster, she tries to argue. And she lies. And perjury charges should be placed against her, should be made against her. She should resign. And if she doesn't resign, when Democrats take control of the House of Representatives in this next Congress, she should be impeached, convicted, and removed by the United States Senate. And as an element of what their power would be in a conviction, they should vote to forbid her, disqualify her from running for federal office ever again. That is within the powers granted the Senate by the Constitution of the United States. Now, after this particular moment, attention-seeking clout chaser Andy Ogles from Tennessee, the man who intends to have Donald Trump run for a third term, to amend the United States Constitution or come up with some other scheme to allow Donald Trump to run, he got his camera time. He was seeking, how can I make this moment about me? And then went off about the unfortunate incident comment that was made by Bennie Thompson. Watch this.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. That was a murder that took place in D.C. It was not an unfortunate incident. And those comments are effing disrespectful.
Who is that?
I expect better from the
It's not a valid point of order. I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, the former chairman, Mr. McCall, for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary, great to see you.
All right, you got your 30 seconds on camera, Andy. Now I guess it's time to go back to your little hidey hole and shut the fuck up. How about that, sir? Anyway, what do you think out there? I would love your conversation about this in the comments. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me the old-fashioned way, daily@dollemore.com. Please consider, I'll ask this in this video, please consider supporting the work I do. If you appreciate independent media, and specifically if I bring you value on a video by video basis or day to day, if you derive something from what I do for you, please consider supporting this work for $2 a month. You can become a channel member on YouTube. Click the join button below the video or just on my channel in general, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt and help support this work in independent media and truth-telling, political analysis and commentary, all of those things. You can support what I do and take part in it. Democrats need to start acting like the opposition party and not the minority party. If you want us to give you power to be in the majority, start doing the work now. Speaking of the disaster of a hearing for Kristi Noem that was yesterday in the House Homeland Security Committee, a Congresswoman Ramirez, is now initiating an investigation into Kristi Noem that is a precursor to her impeachment. Let me share you this tweet from Delia C. Ramirez, a Congresswoman. Secretary Noem, your options are limited. You either resign, your supreme leader fires you. I love it. This is the energy we need from Democrats, by the way. Not my good friend across the aisle, and we just have a different way of looking at the world, and we just have different prescriptions of policy for the country. Not that. When you're dealing with white supremacists, when you're dealing with this new breed of Nazi, you treat them like they are. You treat them like the Nazis they are, like the racists they are, the white supremacists they are, the creators of a glorious white ethno-state that they want to be. Her tweet continues, your supreme leader fires you or you will be impeached. Today, I took the first steps toward your impeachment and called on the Judiciary Committee to open an investigation into your lawlessness. And I hold in my hands that letter. This is why, as an aside, it is so important to get involved. You, right now, start getting involved in political campaigns at your local level. Because we need to flip the House in an overwhelming fashion. We need everybody on board to vote for impeachment, send it to the Senate, which hopefully also is flipped in a grand fashion, so we can secure the more than a majority of votes that we need to get a conviction to remove these people from doing the dangers that they are. We need to take the legs out from the Trump administration to render them powerless, cripple them from their ability to harm Americans, to harm American citizens, to harm residents of this country, whether they're here documented or not. People who prop up the United States economy, who create an atmosphere where restaurants can flourish instead of people hiding at home because they can't go to work because they're afraid they'll be deported. This is the letter. Dear Chairman Jordan and Ranking Member Raskin, Under Secretary Kristi Noem's leadership, the Department of Homeland Security has done irreversible harm to our Constitution, trampling the rights of all people and disregarding the rule of law. Secretary Noem, has established a clear pattern of lawless behavior, mirrored in the behavior of rank and file members of her leadership team. She disregards the separation of powers, breaks the law, violates standards of ethical behavior set for those in public office, and misuses resources appropriated by Congress. When taken together, her actions violate her oath of office. Notably, Secretary Noem has misused resources appropriated by Congress and engaged in unethical behavior. Here are some examples. Recent news reports established that at least one beneficiary of DHS's wasteful $200 million taxpayer-funded propaganda campaign had long-standing and personal ties to the secretary and her senior aides at the Department of Homeland Security. The strategy group's involvement in the ad campaign. This is the ad campaign I was talking about. I don't know if it was earlier in this video or earlier, where she's gallivanting on horseback across the countryside. We'll throw up some B-roll. Let me get the B-roll, write that down because I don't have it prepared. And that'll be running right now. Look at that. Present Jesse is helping out future Jesse in assisting past Jesse. Woo! The space-time continuum just ripped open. The strategy group's involvement in the ad campaign is a clear example of money flowing from DHS to those with ties to Secretary Noem, her allies, and her friends. Secretary Noem also exploited her position to purchase 2 Gulfstream private jets for $172 million. Secretary Noem ordered a partisan video to be played in airports nationwide during the government shutdown that began on October 1st in clear violation of the Hatch Act. The problem there lies in the fact that it's usually the executive branch, typically the executive branch, the President of the United States, who determines whether or not there will be repercussions, there will be consequences for violating the Hatch Act for people within the executive branch. And of course, the corrupt goon, Donald Trump, he's not going to hold her accountable. Secretary Noem has repeatedly made false and misleading statements to Congress and to the press. Here are some examples. Secretary Noem claimed that ICE and Border Patrol had not detained American citizens. However, reporting shows that at least 170 United States citizens have had their rights and civil liberties violated by DHS. Secretary Noem claimed that DHS could not bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia. However, in reality, they brought him back to the U.S. shortly thereafter. Secretary Noem misrepresented the engagement that led to the use of excessive force on Senator Alex Padilla at a press conference. Secretary Noem misrepresented the number of people with a criminal background DHS had detained. In reality, nationally, approximately 75,000 people have been detained and do not have a criminal record. Now, I could go on here, but I don't think there's a need. I will put a link to this document. You've seen the both pages here. You can pause the screen and read the rest. And there are things in here that she did not even get listed because the letter was written yesterday. For instance, her lying in committee and saying, we have not deported any military veterans who served valiantly or even dishonorably from the United States military. She lied. They have deported veterans. That's perjury right there. That is certainly worthy of impeachment, conviction, and removal. So my thanks to Congresswoman Delia Ramirez. We need more energy like this from Democrats. We need Democrats in the Senate especially to stop voting to confirm Donald Trump's nominees, to stop voting for the agenda of Donald Trump, stop voting for these meaningless, idiotic statements of intent about socialism being a scourge against the country, the planet. Stop. Democrats need to start acting like the opposition party and not the minority party. If you want us to give you power to be in the majority, start doing the work now. What do you think? Fired up on a Friday. What do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video.
You acknowledged that CPI in January when you took office was 3%, and in September, the last month for which we have data, it was also 3%, so inflation.
No, it's 2.5%.
Not in September, it was 3%.
It's 2.5%.
I can only imagine that it must be very difficult to work for Donald Trump in times where the thing you're paid to lie about, in the case of Karoline Leavitt, is the economy, and not some high-level kind of abstraction about the stock market or other such thing. But like, people go to the grocery store, they pay for eggs, they pay for meat, they pay for groceries. Oh, it's an old-fashioned word. They pay for their groceries, and they know that they're paying more than they used to pay, which is inflation. Yesterday, during the press briefing, Karoline Leavitt, I mean, seriously, I have no sympathy for her because she is a liar and a fascist enabler, but it's an impossible job she is endeavoring to achieve here, to accomplish. And Kaitlan Collins from CNN really held her feet to the fire about inflation, about the price of groceries going up, about people who go to the grocery store and know that they're being lied to by the President of the United States and his cadre of goofs when they say, oh, everything's good, prices are down. Inflation is actually less now than it was when we took office. And she's using a metric to get to that number that is just lies. It's an average of the 8 months, a full 8-month period when inflation really didn't start to kick in until Liberation Day, when Donald Trump imposed his dangerous, damaging tariffs that the world hates, America hates, everybody hates them except people who are paid to love them, paid by Donald Trump and hired by Donald Trump, who kiss the ass of Donald Trump. That is their chief objective in life, is to make sure the dear leader feels good about all of the bullshit that he pulls. Watch this moment in the press briefing room. And then I got a clip on the other side, which was kind of just a response video on CNN from Kaitlan Collins to this very moment, bringing the receipts. First, though, watch the fascist enabler stutter and try to get her bearings about her and figure out how she's going to escape from the facts.
Gas prices are down in almost every single state across the country. Again, in 22 states, it's below $2.75. You look at the tax cuts, those are going to go into effect next year. So the best is yet to come. The president is digging our country out of the economic hole that the previous administration put us in, and that's what he's talking about.
It was a year ago, as you know, and grocery prices have been up. So we've covered the economy, but there's mixed signals in terms of what that looks like. But on
inflation is down from where it was. As measured by the overall CPI, it has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. This is down from what the president inherited. The president inherited 2.9% in January. Today it's at about 2.5%. So we're trending in the right direction with more to come. And I would remind you, when President Trump left office in his first term, inflation was 1.7%. And the previous administration jacked it up to a record high 9%. So again, in 10 months, the president has clawed us out of this hole. He's kept it low at 2.5%, and we believe that number is going to continue to decline, especially as energy and oil prices continue to decline as well.
It wasn't high under Biden. They're just saying it's not.
Well, nobody reported on it being high under Biden. My predecessor was standing at this podium, but now you want to ask me a lot of questions about it, which I'm happy to answer. But I will just add, there's a lot more scrutiny on this issue from this press corps than there was. Well, and the previous administration said that too. My predecessor stood up at this podium and she said inflation doesn't exist. She said the border was secure. And people like you just took her at her word. And those were two utter lies. Everything I'm telling you is the truth backed by real factual data. And you just don't want to report on it because you want to push untrue narratives about the president. Go ahead.
Everything I'm telling you is the truth, and you don't want to report on it because you just want to hurt Donald Trump. Oh, the dear leader's not going to be happy with this. Cutting her off and moving on. That number she's giving you is incorrect. She's the 2.5%. She's giving you an average of all of the time Donald Trump has been in office, not where inflation is at this very moment. And if you look at the average across all the months, it's including months where the tariffs hadn't taken effect yet. So the inflation was roughly where it was when Biden left office. And was inflation bad during COVID? Yeah, of course. Supply chain nonsense and gougeflation with all of these companies increasing prices while shrinking the size of their boxes of cereal and toilet paper packs and everything else. They were profiteers on the calamity and the disaster that was the pandemic. We all witnessed it. We were impacted by it just like everybody else because we live in reality. So these are all lies that are being told. It's just a fool's errand to try to protect the ego and self-esteem of the precious dear leader who is a dipshit, a dumb fuck who doesn't know anything about anything other than how to grift expertly. Now, Kaitlan Collins did something that I think is relatively unprecedented. It's almost like making herself the story, which in this case, I fully endorse. I approve, because this little video that they aired on CNN talking about this exchange just puts to rest any argument about whether or not Karoline Leavitt was lying. Now, you could make your own estimation as to whether she was lying well, whether she was a good little liar or a bad liar, but you be the judge after you watch this response that was aired on CNN.
We had the greatest economy in history in my first term. I think we're blowing it away right now.
That was President Trump tonight in the Oval Office, touting the state of the U.S. economy as his standing with voters on what is historically a strong issue for him has sharply declined recently. Earlier, in a post on Truth Social, the president again falsely claimed that there is currently no inflation. That isn't true, but it comes after his White House press secretary grew defensive over the administration's statements about the economy during today's press briefing.
It was a year ago, as you know, and grocery prices have been up. So we've covered the economy, but there's mixed signals in terms of what that looks like. But on
inflation is down from where it was. As measured by the overall CPI, it has slowed to an average 2.5% pace. This is down from what the president inherited. The president inherited 2.9% in January. Today it's at about 2.5%. So we're trending in the right direction with more to come. And I would remind you, when President Trump left office in his first term, inflation was 1.7%. And the previous administration jacked it up to a record high 9%. So again, in 10 months, the president has clawed us out of this hole. He's kept it low at 2.5%, and we believe that number is going to continue to decline, especially as energy and oil prices continue to decline as well.
It wasn't high under Biden. They're just saying it's not.
Well, nobody reported on it being high under Biden. My predecessor was standing at this podium, but now you want to ask me a lot of questions about it, which I'm happy to answer, but I will just add there's a lot more scrutiny on this issue from this press corps than there was. Well, and the previous administration said that too.
Now, despite what Karoline Leavitt argued, we did cover inflation during the Biden administration, whether that was questioning his press secretary or the president himself.
And what's the White House's expectation for the inflation report that is expected to come out this week?
I don't have a prediction. I know I sometimes do, but I don't have a prediction on it at this moment from here.
President Biden, inflation has just hit nearly a 40-year high. Do you think this is the peak of those prices?
Every other aspect of the economy is racing ahead. It's doing incredibly well.
One thing that they do address in here is inflation. Prices are still incredibly high across the United States. Prices are still incredibly high as they had skyrocketed over the last year. Higher prices are plaguing President Biden. President Biden came out and said that fighting inflation is going to be his #1 priority. President Biden acknowledging the pain of higher prices. President Biden staring down a massive political liability, a massive headache for the White House. At least one top White House official is admitting they were wrong when they said that inflation only posed a small risk, if any risk at all. So the bottom line is we did cover it, and we did certainly ask about it. Of course we did. We covered the news here. But when it comes to the numbers themselves, as CNN's Daniel Dale highlights tonight of where we stand right now, the year-over-year inflation rate in January, when President Trump returned to office, was 3%. In September, the most recent month for which the Consumer Price Index figures were released, the rate was also 3%. It's a fact my colleague from CBS News, Nancy Cordes, highlighted moments later in the briefing today.
First, very quickly clarifying Kaitlan's question. You acknowledged that CPI in January when you took office was 3%, And in September, the last month for which we have data, it was also 3%, so inflation.
No, it's 2.5%.
Not in September, it was 3%.
It's 2.5%. The average CPI right now, I have it in front of me. In President Trump's first 8 months in office, inflation as measured by the overall consumer price index has slowed to a 2.5 average pace. This is down from the 2.9% inherited in January.
I mean, come on, man. That's the way it should be done. The problem, one of the problem lies, and this is kind of an aside, it's a tangent, but CNN they're looking to purchase the Ellisons, the same family that just bought CBS and transformed it into Fox News Light under the guise of, or under the leadership and auspices of the brilliance of Barry Weiss. They're looking to do that to CNN. They want to functionally alter how news is reported in this country so that they don't, so that the administration, the fascists who work for Donald Trump, don't have to face tough questions. So where every outlet is just a propaganda dissemination tool of this administration. We're witnessing that at the Pentagon, fully being completely changed with how they cover. That these people are just, they have offices in the Pentagon now, and whatever line the Pentagon gives them, they disseminate. Anybody who was a legitimate journalist who had to sign some ethics, anyway, that is a tangent. I'm really going off now. It's just nonsense. We need more of this. We need more of this from CNN, more of this from the former Daily Caller, the outfit started by Tucker Carlson that Kaitlan Collins used to work for. It's nice to see that there's some actual journalism being done still at CNN, since Jake Tapper saw fit to bend the knee to Donald Trump and work his magic for Donald Trump. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. Let's have it in the comments below the video. If you're on Facebook, make sure you like and follow the Dollemore Daily on Facebook. We're close to 40,000. We might be just at 40,000 or maybe just over it. I don't check it every day. But this is a way for you to share these videos. If you're watching right now on YouTube, you can go over on Facebook and share these natively. It's not a link. Zuckerberg's not going to suppress the reach of the videos there unless I get a little too radical. But, I can only do so much. Anyway, I would appreciate that very much. You can also subscribe on YouTube. That's free. And comment below.
And I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that.
Donald Trump has been suffering some losses lately. And I don't mean memory losses or giant chunks of his cognition. That goes unsaid. That is a self-evident fact that it's been revealed to us by virtue of the fact that we live in reality and we can see things and hear things with our eyes and ears. But Donald Trump lost a fight in Indiana, partly because he's been just freely using slurs against intellectual disabled people, and people who have kids with Down syndrome are like, well, I'm not going to be bullied by Donald Trump. I'm not going to foist forward the agenda of this guy who's abusing people in my family, my children. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is kind of nebulous as to why Indiana chose to not go through with the anti-democratic agenda of Donald Trump to redraw their legislative maps and to cut out any Democratic representation, to disenfranchise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the state of Indiana. They said no. Donald Trump threatened them with a total cutoff of all federal funds. The things that fund their roads and their social safety net programs, and much of what goes on inside the state is funded by the federal government. It's how our system is kind of set up, right? So Donald Trump is threatening them. We're gonna cripple your state unless you do this fascist thing for me. They said no. He threatened to primary all of them. If you don't do it, you'll be out of a job. We will spend millions of dollars to see that your statewide, your your local elections are tampered with by the might of the Republican Party in our funding. He's threatening. It was a full court press to try to get this done, and they said no. Even his acolytes, Donald Trump's little loyal Nazi soldiers at the Heritage Foundation got on the action. They tweeted this: President Trump has made it clear to Indiana leaders, if the Indiana Senate fails to pass the map, all federal funding will be stripped from the state. Roads will not be paved. Guard bases will close. Major projects will stop. These are the stakes, and every no vote will be to blame. Hashtag pass the map. You know, the states' rights organization, the great defenders of the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, Heritage Foundation, is now saying, fall in line, do what the federal government says, or else. The 10th Amendment, for your edification, if you don't know, I'm going to paraphrase it, but it's roughly any power that is not specifically granted to the federal government or specifically forbidden of the states is for the states to have. So things like redrawing your own legislative maps, that's not even a 10th Amendment issue. That is a constitutional grant of power to the states. And Donald Trump doesn't want that. He's all about 10th Amendment when it comes to things that help his agenda, but then he's totally opposed to it. And I'm a king. I'm a dictator. I have all the power. You have to do what I say otherwise. So yesterday he was asked about this, about the vote going against him. And of course, Donald Trump, because he is just a weak and just a self-esteem non-existent. Mom hugged him too much. Dad didn't hug him enough. And he's punished by it in his adulthood. In his elderly years, he can't let go of the fact of how he was treated by his parents as a child. He's just that much of a weakling. And he was asked about this, and he says, well, actually, I didn't have much to do with that. I didn't work really hard on that. It's okay that it failed. Even though he threatened them. He levied threats of primary. He levied threats of cutting off federal funding so they couldn't pave their roads. He dispatched the army of goons from the Heritage Foundation to level threats too. He worked on it very hard. And he just wants everybody to believe otherwise, even though we view the reality. We view the world through a reality lens and not fucking fantasy land like Donald Trump. Watch this moment from the Oval Office.
Mr. President, in Indiana, just a few moments ago, the Senate there rejected the congressional maps to redistrict in that state. A number of Republicans voted against that redistricting effort. You have spent a lot of time talking about this. The Vice President traveled to Indiana. What's your reaction?
Well, we won every other state. That's the only state. It's funny because I won Indiana all 3 times by a landslide. And I wasn't working on it very hard. Would have been nice. I think we would have picked up 2 seats if we did that. You had one gentleman, the head of the Senate, I guess, Bray, whatever his name is. I heard he was against it. He'll probably lose his next primary, whenever that is. I hope he does, but because he's done a tremendous disservice. I mean, think of it. It's a great place. I love the people there. They love me. You know, we won in a landslide all 3 times. Got tremendous votes. I got record votes. And then there's no reason for doing that. And the Democrats do it to us, so I can't imagine that they do it. But I wasn't very much involved. But there's a man named Bray, as I guess, head of the Senate. Was that Bray? Is that the name? Bray? I mean, I'm sure that whenever his primary is, it's, I think, in 2 years, but I'm sure he'll go down. He'll go down. I'll certainly support anybody that wants to go against him. Mr. Bonham, if I can ask you briefly. Sure.
It's the same thing he says all the time. Oh, I don't even know that person very well. George Papadopoulos, he got us coffee. I don't even know who that is. Who is that guy? He did the same with Rick Gates and Paul Manafort. He wasn't really even involved. He was the campaign manager. Anytime anything goes wrong for Donald Trump, he disavows any knowledge. Oh, yeah, that wasn't a passion of mine. Not at all. The problem is that Republicans are under the foot of Donald Trump. Donald Trump squarely has the boot of his tyrannical attitudes on their necks, and some of them willingly. You've got some of these ghouls who are just masochistic in the manner with which Donald Trump treats them. They get turned on by it. Troy Nels from Texas is one. But there are others who are partially on that line. This guy, Marlin Stutzman from Indiana, is really trying to walk a tightrope here between pleasing the dear leader and agreeing that federal funding should be cut off, and then displeasing his constituency of people from Indiana who don't want federal funding cut off. Here's a little piece of a conversation between him and Jake Tapper on CNN yesterday, where he is really just in an unenviable position of either trying to kiss Donald Trump's ass or be loyal to his constituency.
And that's why I'm really disappointed. I think it was a terrible decision.
So do you think, as Heritage Action suggested should happen now, that all federal funding should be cut from Indiana? Do you think that you should not have money to pave the roads in Indiana? You shouldn't have money to fund the guard bases in Indiana? Because that is what the administration was suggesting. Presumably you now support that.
We have a lot of projects that we've been working on in Indiana. And look, we know that, just like in business, you work with people who work with you. And, President Trump asked for this. Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, he put a ton of time making phone calls. There was pushing, pulling, and some of the excuses, there was no good excuse that I heard other than this just breaks precedent or the president was being a bully about it. This is politics. I mean, this is hardball and we're playing softball. And so my belief is that, you know what, he's going to look at Indiana and say, look, we want to work together, but I need your help, and the state Senate failed to help today.
So you think that Indiana should not get federal funding anymore?
No, I think, that it makes our job harder as a delegation here. Now, he's going to look at states like Texas or Florida or Ohio, Missouri, North Carolina, states that are moving ahead and saying, we're going to make sure that the House Republicans have the support that they need to be sure we hold the majority. I mean, Al Green, he already filed impeachment articles today in the House. That's what's going to happen as soon as Democrats take control of the House of Representatives.
Al Green has been filing impeachment since you and I were in the cradle.
Once Akeem Jeffries is Speaker, there will be even more of that. And so, but no, I mean, I hope not. I want to work with the president. I want to make the case why it's important to invest in Indiana. Indiana has a lot of good things going. Unfortunately, we just don't have a state Senate that sees the big picture and understands the national implications of this.
And then look, I mean, as hilarious as that is, as just irritating as it must be to be in that guy's congressional district, then you got the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who's asked by Manu Raju of CNN yesterday about the Indiana thing and whether Donald Trump is losing power, having some impact on what takes place. He's not the shot caller he once was. And Mike Johnson wants you to know, no, he's the most influential president ever. He is a great and mighty man with a 1-foot penis that I love. Paraphrasing, but watch Mike Johnson.
Does the Indiana vote? Are you worried about Trump's grip on power after Indiana? Do you think it shows he's a lame duck?
Not at all. We're
Is
not
he a lame
worried
duck?
about. No, he is not a lame duck. He's the most powerful president of this generation and many others. We have a lot more work to do together. The outcome in Indiana is inconsequential to that. We are going to win the midterms. No, he did. No, he did not put in major pressure campaign for it. He let his opinion be known as he does on everything, all the time, all day long. We win some, we lose some. It is no indication whatsoever about what's going to happen next year in the midterm elections. We are excited about that. We have a great campaign to run. We go forward regardless of how each one of these states comes out. We're going to win on whatever maps are presented. So I'm very bullish. I'm more bullish today than I was yesterday, and you'll see that. And you guys underestimate us. You'll see that.
Sir, Mr. Speaker, continuing Venezuela.
He's not a lame duck. He's the most powerful person of a generation. He did not put on a major pressure campaign despite all of the things that we've witnessed. Despite everything we've seen from Donald Trump and all of the threats and all of the intimidation, it wasn't very much. Yeah. Mike Johnson, he cannot get enough of that Trump grundle butter, am I right? He just wipes it under his nose so it's constantly being breathed in every single day. Do not Google grundle butter. If you don't know what it is, don't Google it. I'd be doing you a grave disservice. Anyway, what do you think? If you're from Indiana, if you're from Stutzman's, is that name Stutzman? If you're from his district, I'd love to hear from you.
So where is Antifa headquartered?
What we're doing right now with the organization.
Where in the United States does Antifa exist?
There's a concerted effort underway by Donald Trump and Republicans and this entire fascist movement within the United States to paint any enemy perceived, whether real or not, of Donald Trump as a terrorist organization. We've seen the dipshit Nazi wannabe Stephen Miller say that the Democratic Party is a domestic extremist organization, and they want to label Democrats as terrorists, maybe officially, which would cut off the ability to raise money for campaigns. And if you're involved with the party, that makes you a terrorist. If you have a tangential relationship to the party, you're a terrorist. If you help courier money between candidates from donors to candidates, you're a terrorist. If you're donating money, you're a terrorist. It just shuts the whole operation down. That's what they want. Antifa is the thing. It's the boogeyman they've been talking about for years and years, though. Even though Antifa isn't an organization, Antifa doesn't have a membership list. Antifa is an ideology. It's an idea. Anti-fascism. Antifa. That's what it is. And Bennie Thompson yesterday, congressman from Mississippi, a brilliant man. Yesterday, he chaired the House Select Committee overseeing the investigation into the insurrection against the country. You'll remember him then. But he was questioning a guy who is I want to get it right, I'm going to talk about his bio later, but he's the operations director of the National Security Branch, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Michael Glasheen is his name. Glasheen, whatever is how to pronounce it. And Bennie Thompson did this brilliant move where he asks him a couple of questions, getting him a little comfortable, and then pulls out the big guns and asks him, where is Antifa's headquarters? Who are the leaders of Antifa? Obviously, if you're wanting to list them as a terrorist organization, a domestic extremist organization, you got to have the deets, right? You're going to be able to tell me all of these details. And it is a flounder fest on the part of this dipshit who has a storied, a long many decades career in the federal government. He's a former fellow United States Marine, which brings me great dismay that he's now working in service to an anti-constitutional, anti-democratic fascist in Donald Trump, making excuses for him. Watch this moment, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's at play here and who he is.
President Trump had just announced executive order domestic terrorist organization, Antifa. That's our primary concern right now.
All right, that's what President Trump did. What does the FBI say?
We share the same view. When you look at the data right now, you look at the domestic terrorist threat that we're facing. Right now, what I see from my position is that's the most immediate violent threat that we're facing on the domestic side.
So where is Antifa headquartered?
What we're doing right now with the organization.
Where in the United States does Antifa exist? If it's a terrorist organization, and you've identified it as number one.
We are building out the infrastructure right now.
So what does that mean? We're trying to get the information. You say Antifa is a terrorist organization. Tell us as a committee, how did you come to that? Where do they exist? How many members do they have in the United States as of right now?
Well, that's very fluid. It's ongoing for us to understand that. The same, no different than Al-Qaeda and ISIS.
No, I don't want you. I'll ask one question, sir. I just want you to tell us. If you said Antifa is the number one domestic terrorist organization operating in the United States, I just need to know where they are, how many people. I don't want a name. I don't want anything like that. Just how many people have you identified with the FBI that Antifa is made of?
Well, the investigations are active.
So you wouldn't come to this committee and say something you can't prove, I know. I know you wouldn't do that. But you did.
he said it at the beginning of the clip. The reason they're doing it is because Donald Trump directed them to do so. Donald Trump is using the weight and power, the full width and breadth of the weight and power of the United States government and its law enforcement against his ideological opponents. Even having to make up that Antifa is like a real group with a storefront, with a brick and mortar headquarters. It's not even a loose band. There is no official Antifa. It's not a thing. It's not like the Ku Klux Klan, which has an organizational structure and a grand wizard. They're okay with that. But they want to demonize Antifa, a group of people who are anti-fascist, like me. If you're opposed to fascism, you're Antifa. And who would not want a group that's opposed to fascism if not fascists? Am I right? So this is a little bit about Mr. Michael H. Glasheen. He is the operational director for the FBI's National Security Branch. And I want to read a few things from this Congress-provided bio of him. That particular job that he does, it says this responsibility encompasses the Counterterrorism Division, Counterintelligence Division, Threat Screening Center, and Directorate of Intelligence. He's not just a dum-dum. He's not just some idiot who doesn't know better. He knows better. He knows precisely what Antifa is and what Antifa is not. And he is just following the dear leader, following the supreme cult leader, and whatever he says, rather than do the principled thing and stand up against working for a fascist. He leans in. He bends the knee. He disregards his service in the United States Marine Corps, his supposed, ostensible, long history of leadership. He's just abdicating that role to be a fucking follower, and a follower of a dipshit, a threat to the good order and discipline of our military and our federal law enforcement, as we've witnessed, because they are now masked thugs rounding up people in communities all across the country, kidnapping them with no due process off the streets, including American citizens. Mr. Glasheen joined the FBI in 2001 and was assigned to the Chicago field office, where he specialized in international terrorism investigations. In 2011, he was promoted to a supervisory special agent in the Counterterrorism Division at FBI headquarters. In 2014, Mr. Glasheen transferred to the Seattle field office, where he was a Joint Terrorism Task Force, SSA, followed by a promotion to the Assistant Special Agent in charge over the Seattle Counterterrorism Program. In 2019, Mr. Glasheen returned to the CTD at FBI headquarters as a section chief with the International Terrorism Operations Section. This is a guy who knows better. This is a guy who has the full understanding, the full breadth of experience to know what he's doing, and he's still choosing to do the wrong thing. Mr. Glasheen has served at the Washington field office as special agent in charge over the Counterterrorism Division from 2021 to 2023. In 2023, Mr. Glasheen was appointed as the director of Terrorist Screening Center, now known as the Threat Screening Center, and served in that capacity until 2025. And then the thing that you need to know, the only thing actually, I could have just skipped to this sentence, the only thing you need to know about who he is, what his motivations are, what his qualifications are, where his loyalties lie, is this. In 2025, FBI Director Kash Patel selected Mr. Glasheen as one of his 5 operations directors. When you're handpicked by Kash Patel, it means you're no good. You are up to no good. You have ill intent. Your loyalties are not where they should be. Mr. Glasheen, fellow Marine, dipshit, fascist enabler, and terrible liar, as witnessed by the clip that, or as you just witnessed watching that clip of the questioning with Bennie Thompson, who did a fantastic job. More of that energy, more of that expertise, more of this, please. Anyway, what do you think? I invite you to this conversation. We can have it in the comments below the video, wherever you're watching it, whether that be Facebook or YouTube. You can also call the voicemail line, 714-576-4054. And of course, as always, you can email me daily@dollemore.com. I love and appreciate you. I hope you are Antifa and you're not a terrorist, right? I'm going to go. I hope you have a great weekend. Maybe I'll do a little work this weekend. We'll see how it goes. I'll see you next time. Be genuine and take care of one another.